How's everybody doing? I'm gonna be going live with Xaria Bloom. Just waiting for start here. How's it?
Hey, Tom.
How you doing? All right, so let's just jump right into it here. So I got Xaria Bloom here, and we're going to kind of talk about her background and when she kind of got into MMA. And so that's kind of what I wanted to know first was when you first found the sport.
Yeah, so I was always into it. I always thought about high school, so I started high school in 2007. So, it hadn't been on TV for too long at that point. And then shortly after high school, I started getting into some modeling work. Through the modeling work, I got the opportunity to work as a ring girl for a boxing. It was actually Bobby Campbell's show, uh, Jackhammer Promotions. So I went and worked with him, and then from there I just met other people that were in the scene, and other fight promoters started offering me work as a ring girl. So I started doing that, and that was about 2013, maybe even 2012. I also did some work with the clothing company, Spit the Truth. Shout out to Timmy. He's super sweet. I know he still sponsors a few shows and things like that. I think he works with Jackhammer Promotion still. But yeah, so then I started working with an MMA organization that had just started out here. And at that time everything was underground, so it was exciting to be a part of, and that was when I first saw my first MMA fight. So that was out on Long Island at, I don't even remember what it was, but I was the ring girl and a lot right. I fell in love. I was like, this is like no other sporting event I've ever been to. It's totally different from boxing, and I just wanted to be involved in any way possible.
And let's talk about it a little bit because I never really talked to someone who was working as a ring girl or whatever. Did you like it doing it or?
At the time it was cool. It was whatever, but I wanted to take on a bigger role. So I actually started helping that MMA promotion with running the entire show, matching fighters, finding fighters. Um, I did a lot of that through the use of social media. Like at that time, nobody really cared about Instagram or anything like that. And I just kind of always viewed the Instagram platform as something that was really good for creatives to connect people. And then when I started working with the MMA scene, I was like, I mean, this is like I can, find fighters this way as well, because I knew how to search hashtags and location and anything like that. So, um, yeah, I was still a ring girl at that time, but I was also doing a lot of behind the scenes work. Like I said, managing the fighters. I was also managing a gym and working in a gym out here on Long Island gym. So that was how I started training too. Um, and that was how I kind of started to see how everything worked. And it was awesome. I mean, there's nothing like, like a live fight. So it was just like I loved being a part of it, but it definitely was difficult because it is very male dominated. And I felt pressures on me uh, from certain individuals, like, to date them or something, or I would have the job if I dated them, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell me about managing fighters, because it sounds like you got into a lot pretty fast. What,
Hmm.
Ringo managing fighters, working, how did that all happen so fast like that?
I mean, I wasn't necessarily managing the fighters. I was more like managing the communications with coaches, with fighters, with getting them
Hmm.
set up for the show. Um, you know, the ticket sales, things like that, just all the little behind the scenes things. And I also started hiring the ring girls. So since I was modeling, I had a lot of connections with, I had a lot of friends in the modeling industry, and I would bring them in to be ring girls for the promotions and stuff like that. So I was managing the ring girls more, but I
Mhm.
was managing fighters and helping find matchups for them.
And so tell me about that first promotion that you were talking about. What was it called again?
I'd rather not go.
Jackhammer.
Oh, jackhammer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
So tell me tell me what that is, because I haven't heard of it.
oh, Jackhammer Promotions. They were just boxing. That's run by Bobby Campbell. So he was just a boxing promotion at the time, and now he does MMA events as well. And they actually have one coming up soon. I think a little bit after the Flex Fight series, or I think the Sunday after Flex, they have a fight. It's like somehow all the promotions in New York do their promotions on the same weekend. It's
Mhm.
kind of bad.
Yeah, it seems. I think that happens a lot everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, do you think, like, I know you were doing some work with the promotion, but do you think like you're going to continue to do that, or take a
Yeah,
break from it, or?
no, I would love to. Like, I want to be like, this is the industry that I'm the most passionate about, and this is
Mhm.
where I feel like I can really make a difference. Um, it's just a matter of, how it all plays out, I guess, at the end of the day. And right now, like, I'm really focused on giving the females of this, sharing my platform with the females of the sport. I don't have the biggest platform, but what I have grown, I want to extend to the females of the sport, because I know I've witnessed for a decade now, like the challenges that come with being a female in the sport. Even though I've never competed or anything like that, just from training and being in, and I've been in and out of a lot of gyms. And just seeing the dynamic and what goes on, it's tough. And all these women who go in there and do this and excel, like, it takes so much. Like, I think it takes more. You have to have more of a passion and more of a love for it to really stick with it. Um, because there wasn't really a space, and women weren't really given a platform until not too long ago.
Yeah, is commentary kind of what you're looking at, though? Is that what you would want to do?
Yeah, I would love to do commentary. I would love interviews, like media interviews at the fights and things like that. Um, Anything where I can kind of just like talk to these fighters and help show their personalities and share some of their story is what I really ultimately want to do.
Now, are you kind of like have you been, should I say, like, conversating with some of the other promotions outside of like New York, as far as maybe doing stuff with them, or?
I've been speaking with a few different people recently, not necessarily promotions, but different media companies, different agencies that represent,
Oh,
uh, you know, media people and stuff like that, and different media organizations that cover like UFC and stuff like that. So it's pretty exciting. I can't really say anything right now,
mm-hmm.
but it's definitely getting some attention, because there's not really anyone highlighting the women of the sport, and if they are, it's in a very sexualized way.
Mm.
Um, so I really want to share these women's stories like that, like the hearing about what these women and just fighters in general, like men too. Like, I would love to share their stories too, but I feel like there's so much coverage on
Mm.
that women just deserve. I'm a woman, I can relate, and I know what it's like being a female in the industry. It's very you're few and far between. It's growing, thankfully. I think that a lot more young girls, like ever since Ronda and Misha, started in the UFC and they were put on that platform, and young girls got to see them. I think there's a lot more girls starting to get involved in the sport from a younger age, but it's still very male dominated.
Yeah, I think even in boxing, I mean, you're having some women headline cards recently.
Yeah, Serrano. I mean,
Yeah.
good thing I could say about, Jake Paul and those promotions, they gave her a very big platform to box.
Yeah. Is that something you kind of looked into too, maybe like boxing?
Um, I like boxing. I like combat sports, but my passion is the MMA.
Mhm.
I really love the fact that you can use every limb and go for submissions and chokes and things like that. It just adds a different energy to the crowd, to the excitement. Um, I just love it. I love watching it. I love training it. So,
And I know like you're kind of doing your own thing on here now with this outside the box. Maybe talk about how you, when was the first time you thought maybe I should do something like that? Do you remember?
it was recent. It was really recent. I remember, I think it was a combination of things. It was a combination of, me feeling like I want to use my voice more, and I want people to not just look at me as like a pretty face, and know that I understand what I'm talking about and I understand the ins and outs of the sport, not only from a fan perspective, but from actually inside the industry, whether that's on the promotion end of things or in the gym. And I had just a lot of experience, um, as a woman, that I don't think men would have encountered. So when I see these women who are excelling and are so powerful and, just brave, and I, I, I admire them. They inspire me. Um, and I just want to help them in any way that I can. And I feel like I'm a good vehicle to do that, I think, because I'm not a fighter. I relate more to the average woman out there who maybe is intimidated to pick up a martial art or start striking or do jujitsu or whatever it is. And I feel like if more people, I just feel like there's such a stigma on combat sports. And especially like with women, like I never even, you know, fought, but even just training and being involved in the industry, I had people around me constantly being like, what's with this fighting thing? Like, why do you want to do this? You know what I mean? Like, why are you involved in this? Like, what's this about? And like, I can't even imagine, like, if I said I was going to fight, I'm sure there would be tons of people that know me being like, don't do that. You don't want to do that. And like, every time I talk to these women, they tell me, yeah, that's what happened to me. Yeah, people didn't want me to do it. Yeah, like,
Mhm.
and it's just something that I think, they deserve a lot of credit for what they're doing. And like I said, like they just inspire me so much in my own life to be brave and to be a fighter and to keep going. So I'm thankful for them, and any way I can help them, that's just what I want to do.
Now with the show though, do you think you're going to continue to gear it more towards women primarily, or what do you think?
For that series, yeah, absolutely. I want that to be a special place for the women. I would love to do like, you know, go to bigger events and things like that and just interview like all the fighters that are there. And I've also been thinking about doing like round tables, like going to different gyms in the area since I have relationships with a lot of them, and kind of talking to the coaches and a few of the fighters all at once, and just
Mhm.
like an open conversation like Hollywood Reporter does with the actresses or something like that. And that would be, male and female.
Yeah, maybe like on your own platform though, huh? Like bringing the outside the box
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
event.
I don't know if I would call it outside the box. Maybe it would be like a spin-off of it, or something else. But
Mhm.
outside the box, I feel like is very, it's live. So you're really I thought that that was important, for it to be live so people could really get a sense of my personality, the guest's personality, like know that this isn't fake, know that it isn't staged, know that everything that's happening is organic. And I think that kind of resonates with people more. And live things, even though they say they're live, sometimes they're not. They're all cut up, so you can't really fake this. But with the roundtable interviews, those would have a lot more editing, and I would have like a camera guy there to film that. But
Now, when did you take up training, you think? When was that?
2014, 2014, 2015, that was when I was working and managing, a gym out here. And I started with kickboxing. I didn't do any jujitsu because I, so I starting to train in martial arts and starting to train in combat sports helped me get through so much for like a magnitude of reasons. So when I started, or when I remember there was a show in December, right? So there was an MMA show in December. We finished the show shortly after that show. And I'd been training for a couple of months at that point. So this is December 2014. Shortly after that show, I like to party. I was a drinker, and I got introduced to a cucumber martini
Hmm.
on the scene. So I had a bunch of cucumber martinis one night, and I ended up dislocating my right knee. And that was the worst. I broke my left wrist when I was a kid, but I'd never really had like a bad injury. And I had a lot of, I had an eating disorder at the time. I was bulimic, or I just like wouldn't eat at all. I had a lot of disordered eating patterns, even though I was so active. And when I dislocated my knee, I went into a complete panic because I was over exercising as well. Um, every like bad thing that you can do as far as like your health goes, I was doing it. And then I dislocated my knee and I was like, oh my God, like I can't work out anymore. Like, how am I gonna like I went into a panic mode. Um, and during that time, uh, I was in the gym just working behind the front desk and things like that. And the owner there was kind of helping me like slowly rehab the knee. So I was just watching people training all day long. Um, and I really wanted to do jujitsu, but obviously at that point with the with the injury, I couldn't. So when that healed, I started training kickboxing first, or Muay Thai. I have a bad habit of, I know they are two completely different sports, but I had someone I had dated would just call kickboxing Muay Thai. He was a Muay Thai fighter, but he would call kickboxing Muay Thai because nobody ever knew what the hell he was talking about. So
Hmm.
I got in the habit of saying kickboxing, but yeah, I started training Muay Thai. And then a little bit after that, I re-dislocated my knee. And so back to back, like literally, like it was within weeks of me healing the right knee, I dislocated it again because I slipped on ice walking up my driveway, and I had to stop training. So I had just started and then I had to stop right away. And I was like, oh my God, this is like crazy. But when I started training, I got this like sense of just, I know it was like a feeling I'd never gotten from anything I'd ever done: weightlifting, running, Pilates, yoga. Like I did everything. And nothing gave me that same rush as like, being able to release that energy through hitting something. Um, and I just knew that like it was something that I needed to do and I needed to do more of for my mental health, because it was something that really, at a time when I was like really struggling in every way, even just watching the sport and watching people train was helping me like put myself in a better mentality. And I think, a lot of it for me was I was very weak minded. I didn't have a lot of discipline. There are a lot of reasons why people develop eating disorders, but like those were definitely two of mine. I didn't have any self confidence, and I had these like control issues, right? And then when I got introduced to martial arts and I saw like you know, the values and the things that it instills in people, and like I watched these people that were just like me, my age or maybe younger, and they were getting locked in a cage and getting possibly really terribly hurt. It just inspired me to start respecting my body and treat my body right, and just love myself and have discipline. Like these people, they really inspired me to have a lot of discipline, and just respect, which were two things I was seriously lacking.
Why do you think at that time you were having those issues?
I think it came from a lot of things. I think it came from just, I think, media, society at the time. There was just constantly Victoria's Secret catalogs at your front doorstep. You're looking at these tall, thin, skinny, perfect women, as what is beautiful, very impressionable to young girls. Then it was also rough upbringing. My parents got divorced. Me and my sister really didn't have a positive relationship, and she was always calling me names and making me feel insecure about my weight. Me and her have a very good relationship now. That is all in the past. I love my sister to death, but growing up, the divorce definitely took a toll on us. And my parents fighting turned into, her attacking me. So I always grew up feeling like I was bigger, and that I had, weight issues. And I was in dance class at the time, and I was always bigger than the other girls in the dance class. So that, again, made me feel low, made me feel bad about myself. I even had a dance teacher say to my mom, like when I wanted to do the competition team, um, he pretty much told my mom, like, look at the other girls in the class, and then, look, she's bigger. Like she needs to like lose weight. So I was 10 years old when I heard that.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was a culmination of things for sure.
And then like, well, I know like I heard you talking about the holidays, recently on your
Hmm.
so maybe talk about that a little bit because I've been like, I was in the military overseas without my family. I know a lot of us feel that way at the time. Um, Maybe elaborate on a little bit what you were talking about.
Yeah, so the holidays were always a difficult time for me for, again, a lot of reasons. One, because I mean, I remember being on a diet when I was 10 years old, 8 years old, like thinking like, oh, I have to lose weight. Like no 8-year-old should even be aware of that type of a thing. You know what I mean? Let alone be going attempting diets. Um, So whenever the holidays would come around, obviously I would beat myself up because, I eat cookies and things like that, and it would derail me. So it was always a time of year where like I wanted to enjoy it, but I felt like I had to punish myself if I did enjoy it. And also, like I said, with the family, with my family getting a divorce, my mom and dad getting divorced, that, now it was this whole new dynamic. Am I going to be with my mom? Am I going to be with my dad? Oh, I'm going to miss my dad. I'm not going to see, so that made it really hard. That was adjustment. And then I think I just always had a way of like, the media had a very big impact on my perception of things. So
Mm,
like start seeing when you're a kid, you start seeing the commercials come out. It's family, it's the holidays. They start putting out stuff that's like, you have to be, it's the happiest time of the year. Like,
mm.
it's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be great. And then, reality doesn't really work like that. And, you know, things aren't really like it's in the movies or on TV and things like that. So every time the holidays would come around, I get always disappointed and let down because, whatever the case may be, whether it was I wasn't able, I was, my mom with was started dating my stepdad, so then he was in the picture. There was just a lot of things every year that was changing. Growing up, I think it's hard to adapt to those things, and it's hard to when you feel like it's the holidays, we should all be happy and grateful, and you're not feeling that way because you're upset about whatever. And now it's just continued. Like I lost my father, so he's not around anymore. And I miss him. He was my best friend. I could, talk to him about anything. And I knew I was always going to get like the 100% truth. He was a straight shooter. He was a no bullshit kind of guy. And just not having that energy around me, that trust relationship with someone is really difficult for me. So I miss him a lot around the holidays. I miss him a lot all the time, but it's just a reminder. And the relationship, the dynamic that I've had with his side of the family has changed since he passed. So that's also another thing that was very tolling. I think it's just a lot of stuff. But I think it's important to talk about this because I think a lot of people feel that pressure in a lot of different ways. Like you said, you were overseas and, you know, um, I think it's something that you gotta feel okay if you don't feel okay during that time of year, and kind of just take it very slowly and not like put pressure on yourself to operate a certain way because that's what you're supposed to be doing according to society.
When did you lose your dad?
In 2015.
Yeah, I lost mine in 2018.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and everything you're saying, like my dad was a good person, He was a very generous person. He always gave more to people than he ever got, and it wasn't expected. I don't
Me
know if you were
too.
expecting. Yeah, it
No.
was like,
Yep.
and the police came to my house in the middle of the night, like, because my mom had been trying to call me, but I was asleep,
Hmm.
like midnight. She was running around in the neighborhood, I guess, where
Hmm.
they live. And they had to wake me up and tell me that he had passed away, So,
That,
yeah, I quit my job like a couple months after that. I couldn't handle it, you know?
he so he was that's a similar thing. Like I didn't know he was sick. He had
Yep.
cancer back when I was in high school, and then he went to Sloan and he came out and he was okay. And him having cancer actually really changed my relationship with him for the better. Like my dad was a very like I said, he was a no bullshit. He couldn't stand anything that was even like remotely a little bit of bullshit. Like he could not handle it, So he had kind of a harsh side to him. And for me growing up, I was a very sensitive kid, so I couldn't really, you know, take that in, and my relationship with him struggled. But once he had gotten sick the first time after he came out, he changed a lot. He softened up a lot, and that really like I was always close to that bond and I remember I went to his house one day and his face was super swollen, and I was like, and this is at the same time that my knee, like my leg was dislocated at this time. So when he passed, like I went there on crutches, and like I hadn't seen him in a little while because I had
I'm losing you a little bit.
oh,
Almost say, I think maybe your connection's gone bad or something.
you got me?
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing him and his face was all swollen, and I was like, all right, something's going on. Like something is not good. So I kind of knew. But then shortly after that, he passed away in March 8th, 2015. And that was the night. It was like 11:30 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was like, look, Bill's my stepdad. Bill's coming to pick you up. You have to go to the hospital. Like your father's not doing well. And I was just like, oh my God. And I'm like on my crutches, like, and then that was, that's not, wasn't a fun night.
Yeah, I mean, my dad wasn't even in the hospital. He's just sitting in his chair. It's just
Well,
like,
no, he had passed
yeah,
already. He passed away in his
yeah,
apartment.
yeah. And I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It is. It's real difficult. And
It's
so you feel like during the holidays now, you're still don't enjoy it, maybe.
not that I don't enjoy it. I am starting to. Like I have a very good handle on myself now. So I am able to manage it, but I definitely have battled those feelings of sadness of, not only him not being around, but my grandparents who my mom's mom made the holidays special. She's not around anymore. Now it's kind of like everything's on me to do. Like I have
Mm,
is special. I have to do everything. Even my mom's a lot older. My mom is in her 70s.
yeah.
She didn't until she was 39. So for the past few years, like everything's been on me to kind of make happen. And it's
Mm.
I enjoy it because I like cooking and I like doing stuff like that. But the whole time of year is just like I'd rather it be another time of year, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah,
Just
it's tough. I mean, I take care of my mom too. My mom's probably about almost 80. I think she's 79. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that my dad did, which he did everything. Um, yeah, I've had to take on, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's not like I don't begrudge it. I'm happy to do it, but I just think that just because it was always such a hard period for me growing up, it's just like what is it? It's like a shadow, like an overcast. I don't know, that's just always on, like even if I don't want to feel bad, because there were so many years where I did. It just kind of like happens that way. So I have to really be mindful of it now. And that's why I'm doing this like kind of, I don't want to call it a challenge, but that's why I'm kind of like sharing this with my platform and telling them like, hey guys, like, you know, this is the holidays. Like, I know there's all this pressure to like be happy and feel good, but that's not, you're fine if you don't feel that way. It doesn't make you like abnormal if you're not happy during this time of year. I think more often than not, people aren't really happy this time of year.
And maybe talk more about what you're doing with that. I think
Yeah.
what you were going to do was share workouts and stuff and some
Yeah.
other things.
So I recently like redid, I was good training for a competition that I'm not going to end up doing just because well, a lot of different reasons, but mostly financial reasons. The competition was extremely expensive, and I just felt like I needed more time to prepare for it. If I was going to spend that much money, I wanted to really do well, and I just felt like I didn't have enough time to prepare. So I want to finish what I started because I started back in July. And even though I'm not working with the coach I worked with, you know, I am a coach, I am a trainer, I know how to train and I know how to coach people. So I'm kind of just extending the ending portion of this program I was doing, um, my own version of it, to any of my subscribers. So I'm sharing literally my exact workout plan for the whole month of November and letting people, you know, screenshot it and save it and then just kind of do it as they please. You don't have to do every single day. If you want to just pick one day that you want to go through and challenge yourself, it's something that people can do to just keep their bodies moving, because that's what's going to make you feel good. Getting those endorphins from working out, even if it's just a little tiny bit, it's something that keeps me grounded and keeps my head in a good place just to get that endorphin release. So I'm sharing those. I'm also going to be sharing like just little tips and tricks to get through the holidays and not beat yourself up, you know, still enjoy your alcohol, but maybe drink vodka and white wine over red wine
Mm-hmm.
and eggnog spiked with bourbon, you know, like just little things that could help people make little changes so they don't feel like this time of year is totally like throwing them off the wagon.
Hmm. Now, because we've talked about stuff kind of more like personal, do you do that with them also or no?
With who?
With people that, subscribe to you or whatever the case may be, people that you're sharing that with,
Do I do what with them?
like encouragement maybe, or, talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I usually leave those public. Um, and then just more of like the training because I am certified. I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm a certified nutrition coach. Um, so anything that I was sharing a lot online, but you know, to be able to create as much to create more content, you know, it takes a lot of time. It takes, people think, you know, you see like a 5 second video and people think like, oh, it must be easy, but like that 5 second video took me like 3 to 5 hours. So to be able to keep producing content, anyone who subscribes to me, that is helping support me produce more content that could be helpful to everyone.
Now, before I let you go, because I know you only got a little time left, maybe talk about maybe something we haven't talked about or something you'd like to leave the interview on, something's important to you.
I mean, we can talk about fights that happened recently.
Yeah, but then we probably wouldn't have time. We only have like a few minutes, but yeah, I could always do
Sure.
that. But
More minutes. I got like 15 more minutes.
okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Pick a fight.
Pick a fight. Well, since you made this video of it and I did watch it, I had a bunch of people message me about it, asking what I thought. You know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
yep, yep. I personally, I have to admit, I was filming content while I had the fights on.
Yeah.
I paid attention to the fights that I really wanted to see, like the main event and the co-main event. Um, O'Malley, I'm not a crazy big fan of just because he doesn't really impress me when he fights, like for no other reason than simply that. Like I've
Hmm.
never have a performance where I was just like, wow, that was like, you know what I mean? Like it was kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, he fought guys that were, whatever. He was better than obviously, but he never really did anything like, so I wasn't too. And Peter Yan, I just thought he was going to take the fight. Like I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Peter Yan's going to win this fight. And every time I looked up, I saw O'Malley hit him, I think in the first or the second round. He hit
Mm-hmm.
him one real big shot that like knocked him down. He got up right away. But from every time I glanced over, it was Yan on top of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yan having the better of the exchanges. Yan dominating the fight. That was really the only thing I saw from O'Malley. I just saw O'Malley kind of defending the whole time. And then I saw all these videos um, of, O'Malley holding the cage and grabbing his glove and all this kind of. And I was actually shocked at the end of the fight with how O'Malley reacted because he
Mm-hmm.
was cocky and he was just like, I don't really know if I won that fight. Like, I have to watch the tape over. And then he watched it, and then now he's like, I definitely won that fight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, you were cool there for a second. Like, that made me give him some respect. Like, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, he's showing, like, he's humble. But now he's just talking all kinds of shit. So, I don't know. What do you, how
Yeah,
do
for me it was, the heavy strikes were relatively even, but the wrestling was, huge. So if you have one part that was even and one part that was heavily in Jan's favor, how does the person who, how does this person win? That's the way I looked at it. One part was close, the other part wasn't, so this guy should win. And I always say, people say, well, it wasn't a robbery. A robbery is when the wrong guy wins, especially if it's business. That's the best time to do it, is when a fight is close. Because then you can make excuses. Oh, it was razor close. And the fans will make excuses. That's the best time to rip somebody off.
you, mm-hmm.
When it's not a close fight is the worst time to do it, because everyone knows you did it. You know what I mean?
Dude, exactly. And that's why it's like, I think hopefully this will open I think fighters know this already, don't leave it to the judges,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially if you're fighting a favorite.
Yeah.
And whether he's a favorite to the UFC or whether he's just whatever, if you're fighting a favorite, like, don't leave it to the judges, because that's unfortunately what's going to happen. And I think Peter Yan has every right to feel upset, but I think
Yeah.
he's also been in the game long enough where he knows.
Yeah. One of those judges had only been a judge for like 2 years. And we talked about that on the Conspiracy Hour show that I do. Those guys are both promoters, Miguel and Mike. Mike's promoted like 200 shows. Miguel's match made probably over 100 shows in his life. And, he said to get a gig like that when you've only been judging for 2 years is unheard of. You know, that's stuff everyone wants, because you get more per diem, you get paid extra because you're going further away from home. That's like a coveted gig,
Well,
you know?
listen, I'm not going to put people on blast, but I'm about to
Yeah.
put people on blast. Like the ISKA, they've had judges at some of these fights.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not just talking, this is the ISKA I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any specific promotion. They hired a judge that doesn't even watch combat sports. Like, doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how is this person, how are they, like, it's not just like, oh, I need a job, so like, let's hire this, like, you know what I mean? We'll teach them as they go, but like, you're screwing with people's everything. You're screwing with the
Right.
fighter.
Yeah.
Insane.
And when people say it's not a robbery, well, that's easy for you to say. It didn't happen to you. You know what I mean? You weren't the one out there who got ripped off. Those guys have to deal with it. That's a big deal for them to lose a fight.
Yeah, because it's, look, nobody wants to put themselves out there, right? Most people hide behind a keyboard with no profile picture, with a private account, running around saying whatever the hell they want, right? Like, don't want to put themselves, don't want to public speaking is like one of the most like feared, like biggest fear people have, things like
Yeah.
that. To For anyone who is gonna go into, I know that fighters don't whenever I speak to them about this, it's like they don't really think about it this way because they're so focused on the fight. But if you're gonna put yourself out there and to get beat up in front of people, like that's a different level of courage. You know what I mean? Like it's like knowing that that's a possibility and still doing it. So I feel like these people need to have the utmost respect from every angle because like who wants to do that? You know, like that's it's just something that I think that, should be handled more delicately because what these people are doing is pretty um, you know, just inspiring and unique and brave and just exudes so much that you don't really get to see in life in general. And then, you see two people fighting and it's like, it's art and violence and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I know we got what's the fights coming up? I know we got
We have the big card in New York
yeah.
that I am desperately trying to go to. Who do you think is going to win, Adesanya or Pereira?
Oh, I think Pereira's gonna win.
Amen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do. And it's not because I don't look at fights as whether I dislike somebody or not. It's just he's so big. And
correct.
he beat him twice before, but he's big. When you look at him, he's
Dude,
huge.
he is
You
a
know?
monster and he's been
Yeah,
posting training videos that I'm just like, but also I've known about him for a long time. He was a Glory kickboxer for a long time. I'm
yeah.
familiar with all the Glory fighters and I mean, here I like unless Izzy's ground game got like crazy good overnight and he's gonna whip out some crazy submission, like I don't see I see him just dominating the striking.
Yeah, it's going to be a standing fight. What they do is what they're going to do. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And I just think he's too big. And, that's probably why he beat him the other two times. He's bigger.
yeah.
And,
And he's just as skilled.
yeah.
If not, I mean, who is he fighting where he was kind of like dancing around playing the outside of the ring? I can't remember what fight that was of his.
We had the Strickland fight where Strickland was kind of coming forward. He had a fight. His first fight was a little bit kind of rocky for a little bit where he got taken down. But that guy was a grappler, a guy from Greece that he fought. But, yeah, I just think his size is going to be a problem.
Yeah. And I like Izzy. Like Izzy is one of my. I know people like give Izzy shit or they're like, oh, like whatever. But like I actually really like him. I think he has a great personality. I think he's like a great champion. I love that he danced. Like I love that he adds an element of entertainment that isn't drama.
Mm-hmm.
I know people feel mixed about that, like, oh, don't be dancing, like this is fighting, but like no, like that's like part of who he is. Like, do
Yeah.
that. That's freaking awesome. Like, and I thought his dance was like really, really cool. So I really like him and I would like to see him win. But like you said, like I don't pick favorites. I just skill for skill. I think that, Pereira just has the size and the stand up advantage.
Yeah, it's a size and reach advantage for a reason. That's another reason why I think people should give Jan more credit. The big striking was even, and Jan is like my height. You know what I mean? So, if
I,
anything, people should give Jan more credit because he had to get inside. You know what I mean?
I feel bad, As I feel bad, but it's a very unforgiving sport.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very
It's tough because he has to get close. He has to do the work. He doesn't have the long reach. So, yeah, that's another reason why I felt that fight. People should look at it and say his degree of difficulty was harder. What he was doing,
yeah. But
standing up and the takedowns.
when people like a fighter, they
Yeah,
will defend them to the death.
yeah.
Like to the death. It doesn't even matter if they just lost. It was like, oh well, every excuse in the book will start coming out. Rocco out of retirement to fight Alex.
I don't think
No,
it'd
I
be good for him. Yeah.
actually met Luke Rockhold when I was hosting in Manhattan at the Ainsworth. I met him right after his loss. What was his bad loss?
He's had a few of them.
The one against Weidman.
Yeah.
It was the one against Weidman. It was right after that. He was he's a giant dude. He's a giant dude, Rockhold. But yeah, I actually met him at the Ainsworth. I used to wear this place in Manhattan that is like they play a lot of sports events. Fun story. I actually hosted Valentina Shevchenko and her coach Pavel there. And this was before she was in the UFC. This was when Conor was about to fight Aldo for the first time in New York back in 2016. So, the whole fight community was in New York at that time. There was like tons of seminars going on and different things like that. So the Gracie Academy was holding a seminar, and Valentina was one of the fighters that was in for the seminar. They also had like the ring girls, Arani, Celeste, and the other one, Arani Celeste. I don't even, is that her name?
Ariane.
Ariani Celeste and the other one, Brittany Palmer, they were there. But yeah, Valentina was there and her coach Pavel, and I was working at the front desk of the Gracie Academy for the event, just like checking in everyone who had signed up and type of thing. And then the guy that had put the event together was like, "Oh, Alex, I know you work in hospitality. Like Valentina can't get a ticket. Her and her coach can't get a ticket to go to the UFC tonight. So would you have any? How crazy is that? How crazy is that? Yeah,
Doesn't surprise me.
it's a true story. Yeah. So I mean, this was before she was fighting in the UFC. Like she was on our radar. Obviously, she's the freaking best in the world, but she wasn't like in the UFC yet. And I was like, yeah, we can go to the Ainsworth. It's right in Midtown. It's like a few blocks over from the Gracie Academy is on 31st and 7th, between 7th and 6th. The Ainsworth is like a little bit more downtown, between like 7th and 6th, or 6th and 7th, or 5th and 6th. But we went there, and she impressed me so much. That was another that she was so just lovely in every way. And I didn't know, I'd never seen her fight. I had no idea. I was just like so impressed by how she carried herself, how she spoke, her demeanor. Like, even though she didn't have a fight coming up, like, well, remember we ordered all this food for the table, like burgers and fries and all this stuff. She wouldn't touch any of it. And I was like, "Oh, do you have like a fight coming up?" And she's like, "No, I don't put that in my body. Like, that's not like," she really is about that life. Like, she does everything she needs to do to be the best, and she is. And I remember leaving that table, meeting her that night, and I was like, yo, that girl is she's 100% gonna be the champion, just because I know in fighting, like, if you're not doing the right thing, that shit shows in the cage. Like, if you're fucking off, if you're having an alcohol here and there, if you're like, it's the better man always wins. And been champion, I'm like, dude, bow down, because I know firsthand she wasn't even in the UFC. They wouldn't even give her a ticket to go to the show, and she was just so committed because that's who she is through and through. So she had a very big impact on me, and just really be better. Just better.
She can, like Showboat saying, his daughter's a champion wrestler here in Oklahoma. Showboat, but yeah, she speaks all these languages. She's a pilot. She shoots guns. It's like she's a KGB or something. You know what I mean? Like, she might be like a secret agent. Like,
I don't think she's a secret agent. You think she is? You froze there for a second.
No, person. Get it?
Oh, what's happening? You're kind of better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, like, kind of like a James Bond type of person.
Yeah, Yeah, she made a very big impression on me. And it's funny too because not that it's funny, but it's just, how life plays out. Shortly that night that I met her, um, she just watched the fights and then I went out to another nightclub. I was doing a lot of like hospitality work at the time. So one of my friends was promoting at another club in the city called Gilded Lily. They had all the UFC after parties after the fights, whatever. It was like huge. Um, So I was like, no, I'm not going to go to Gilded Lily. I'm going to go to Lavo, even though Weidman and Wonder Boy both lost. So that was their after party spot. So neither of them showed up there in the hospital, but I went to Lavo just because I like that nightclub better. Anyway, lo and behold, that weekend something really tragic happened and a friend of mine got killed. Um, and it made me step away from the nightlife industry. It made me step away from everything. But like the timing of like meeting her and then that happening, like further pushed me closer to wanting to really involve myself in martial arts. Like, because I felt like it was a sign, for lack of a better way to put it, like because I was always like trying like to be involved in the martial arts scene, but I was very intimidated. And since it was such a small scene, and I made the mistake of dating someone who was in it early on, I felt like I couldn't just be part of it because every person, and like I felt like it was preventing me, but maybe it was myself holding my own self back. Who knows? But that's the other thing too. It was like it wasn't till I felt like the only way I could kind of be involved in the sport was if I was like dating someone who did the sport. Or because I was older when I started, it wasn't like I was a little girl who got put in and then you grow up doing the sport and you're kind of like, you've been in it. Like when you're older and you start doing it, especially if you're in any way attractive or if you're just a female at all, you're going to be targeted
Mhm.
and people are going to know who you are right away. Oh, look at this girl who's training. Oh, look at this. Oh, look who she dated. Oh, look this. Da, 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 da. Like, so it took a while for me to find my place. And for a while, the only way I was able to train was when I was like kind of like dating someone who was a fighter or was training. Now I strictly do not date fighters at all whatsoever. I don't date anyone in the industry because I just don't think it's good as a woman. I think it's just too, you like there are people, there you see a lot of these women who are in the UFC now that their husbands or their coaches and stuff like that. It's like a common thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you would know better than me. Like me, I don't really, because I mean, I trained for a long time, but I never really, because the politics of all that kind of stuff, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
So it could get a little, that was another thing that was hard. There's also not a lot of female coaches. Really not. Like I'm trying to find female coaches like to interview. I know that this one woman who is phenomenal. She's from Brazil. Her and her husband Soka. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They have a few
Hmm.
schools. Soka Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My
So
friend Barrett competed against him in Abu Dhabi,
uh,
2000, might have been 2000 or 2001.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There, that was where I started going. When I
Mhm.
first started training jujitsu because I knew that they were like the most authentic, legitimate Brazilian jiu-jitsu school in my area that I could go to. And Samantha Soka, she's wonderful. And Vadi, who is her assistant, another black belt there who helps with the women's classes. They do women's classes there, which is great. So I know her, and then my old boxing coach, Sarah Thomas. And then there's Jenny Nadell at Law MMA. But outside
Mhm.
of them, like I can't think of any other female coaches.
Oh, there's one maybe you'd like. I don't. I like watching them because I'm trying to remember her name. I gotta look her up on here before. She beat the really big Brazilian girl, the big, huge, muscular one, Gabby Garcia. She beat Gabby Garcia a couple of years ago, and her husband they'll like break out the Bible in the gym, and they'll kind of like give their interpretation of like she'll speak in Portuguese and he'll talk in English, or he'll speak in Portuguese and she'll talk in English. and they're both black belts, you know, and they're kind of giving their. It's interesting to watch, I think, because it's not like going into church where they're doing like sermons or what. They're just kind of, okay, this is what here, and you know, they're kind of talking about what they think about this, that, and the other. No, it wasn't Dern. I'll have to show you it was. He's saying Dern, but no, it's not McKenzie. But
You guys know each other. You and Showboat know each other in real
yeah,
real.
I sponsor his daughter. His daughter's a champion wrestler here in my area. Yeah, and she wins everything pretty much.
Oh, I would love.
But she
I would love to talk with her.
she's how old is she? So about 16, 17. She hurt her knee, you know, like real bad. So she's out right now again. But she has won all the different like freestyle, Greco, all of her. You know, she wins all the tournaments.
That's so awesome, and more power to her because you know there's not a lot of girls wrestling.
Yeah, she's 16. Yeah, and yeah, I've been sponsoring her for 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I sponsor a few people, you know, but she was one of them. And then yeah, so I do some other stuff with other people. Maybe you should do that, you know, like or help. Yeah, find someone that you like.
Well, you know what? I have to start making funny money first because I'm gonna be for real now. Like, there is not a lot of money. People see followers on social media and think like, oh, this person's making all this money.
Yeah.
Like, no, unless you have 1 million followers, it's really hard to make money on social media.
Plus, you live in New York; it's expensive.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm about to bust open my piggy bank right now because times are tough.
Yeah.
So I would love to. I would love to. That's why I'm actually going to start working in the city again. I sent my resume out this week, so I need to network more, you know, meet more people. It's very limited out here on Long Island. So I want to get involved with more stuff and events and fights in the city.
There's this guy I'm going to tell you about. I'll hook you up to him. But he used to do. I think he runs a restaurant out in your area somewhere.
Oh,
And his name's Patrick Freitas, and he used to help promote a show called Icon Sport on Oahu when I lived there. But a
okay.
lot of people don't know who he is now, you know, because he got out of the industry. But he's
Yes.
an interesting guy, you know, and I think he like runs one of these. I forgot which restaurant it is out there, but he
Yeah,
got into the restaurant industry of all things, and he moved to New York.
they're both high paced and crazy. So it makes sense. I mean, they go hand in
Yeah,
hand, right?
yeah. But he used to like be, you know, he was heavily involved, but he was kind of a guy behind a promoter. So
Okay.
a lot of people don't know who he is, but yeah, he was very instrumental in the Hawaii scene when I was there. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to connect with him.
yeah. But you know, it was great talking to you. Is there like anything you want to close on? I don't know how much time we have, but
Anything I want to close on? No, just, I just want to let everyone know that, we're in the last 2 months of the year and just, don't let the pressures around you get to you. If you're not happy this time of year, that's okay. And find something that makes you forget about your struggles, whether, for me that is training martial arts and doing fitness. It took me a long time to find those things and to really appreciate my body and different things like that. But just find something that you can immerse yourself in that makes you feel good and builds your confidence and makes you feel strong and empowered, because that's the thing that you can lean on when you're feeling low, when you're feeling, not strong. I was going to post a video yesterday, actually. I was on my way to jujitsu. I'm actually training. Shout out to Sensei James. He's going to kill me if I don't say his last name right. James Leonelli. He is the owner of Tiger Showmans in Smithtown. He's also one of the commentators on Flex Fights. Um, Him and his wife are just the most wonderful people. I really am so happy that I connected with them, and I've been going there and training jujitsu there. And there's these 15-year-old girls in the class that I train with, and they're so sweet. And I love training with them because it's so nice to see this younger generation of girls, involved. Um, and I really had a bad day yesterday, and I was really, really upset yesterday. Something had happened that just really, I've just been going through a rough time. So I have a tendency to kind of want to self-destruct, that if one bad thing happens, I'm like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do
Mhm.
that I love. I push things away from me. So this is a reminder to people, like, don't do that. Don't do that. If you start off in something, ruins your mood at the beginning of the day, or you get put in a funk, don't push away the things you love just because you're feeling in a funk. Like, I had to force myself to get in my car and drive to jujitsu at 7:30 last night, and I felt depressed as all hell, and I didn't want to fucking do it. But the second I got there, I was like, oh, thank God I did this. So I know there's like a lot of debate where it's like, don't do anything you don't want to do. No, sometimes you have to push yourself, because sometimes we have bad tendencies that can ruin things that are going to help us and make us feel good. And, if you have a lot of self-loathing or insecurity or things like that, I think it's very easy to, when one thing goes wrong, then you can kind of just get down on yourself about anything and push everything away that you love. But you have to, if there's something that you have that you love, even if you don't feel like in that moment doing it, go do it. It's going to keep you going, and it's going to keep you from spiraling downward. So I think that's my ending message. Just don't push away things you love because one bad thing happened. Just, keep going. And it's okay to feel, depressed, or like Jake from The Fighting Now says, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think when you get older, I think it's easier. Like now, when I was younger, I like, if somebody had criticized me about something, it probably wouldn't have made me happy. But now it's like, I don't care about any of that stuff. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not offended. You will have to kill me when I hurt my feelings. Like, words don't hurt
Mhm.
more when I feel like someone breaks my trust or disrespect.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah.
I can't deal with it at this stage. I'm 33. Like, I'm like, yo, if you're gonna be disrespectful, if you're gonna break my trust, like, goodbye. Like, I'm done. But it still bothers me when it happens, because I feel like at this stage I should know better and know how to read people better. So I get frustrated with myself at the same time.
Yeah, Japan is really strict like that. Like, I'll tell you something. I used to wrestle there, and the coach one day, he coached up Navy guys. You know, it was mostly Navy guys and then two Japanese coaches. And the coach said, we're going to go to combat wrestling. Combat wrestling, like this wrestling tournament where the guys would wear shoes, but there's submissions also. A lot of guys would get leg locked and heel hooked. And anyway, so we're going to go. Who wants to go? And there was about maybe 10, 15 guys that raised their hand. He said, all right, you need to meet me at this train station tomorrow. I think it was at 8:30 or something. That day showed up. I was the only guy there, and he said, how did you know to be here, And he said, Americans, they don't care about any of this kind of stuff. Like, they'll say they're going to go somewhere, and they don't care if they don't go. It's no big deal to them. They could care less. If you come here and you tell someone you're going to be somewhere and you don't show up, they're going to tell everyone they don't like you. They won't tell you. They'll just tell everyone else they don't like you anymore. You know, he's like, you don't do that stuff here, you know?
There is a lot said my before we go. I'm sorry. There's a lot to be said for you speak a lot about Japan, and it's so I really, really,
Yeah.
really there. My twin cousins, they are from San Francisco, but they actually they started teaching themselves when they were young to speak Japanese because they got
Mm-hmm.
best, and now that's what they do. They're Japanese interpreters. They worked for Marie Kondo, the tidying up lady. They
Mm-hmm.
trained one of them is working in Washington right now, and they've spent so much time in Japan, and they absolutely adore it over there. And you telling me these types of things makes me realize why, because
Yeah.
they're very straight shooters, like about respect and different things like that. So it's I would love to go. I
Yeah,
would.
they have a lot of interesting quirks. Like, one of the things, like, if you ask somebody, how are you doing? They expect you to stand there and listen to how you're doing. And if you ask them a week later, they're going to be like, I just told you how I was last week. Why are you asking me now? Because they expect you to listen to their life story when you say, how are you doing? you know?
Well, I mean, I feel like how are you doing is so nobody cares. People
Yeah,
just say it because it's proper to
yeah,
say. Like nobody actually cares. Like I hate to say that, but like
yeah,
it's so and it's not that nobody cares. I think people do care about how you're doing, but you're always gonna get the same bullshit response. Good,
yeah.
great, fine, amazing. You know, it's like just filler.
Yeah, Japan, they don't do that.
Ugh,
So if you ask them, like, if you say that every day to them, they're going to be like, what's wrong with you? I told you yesterday how I was doing.
that's gotta be so relieving.
They have a lot of funny things like that over there.
Oh, Todd, maybe we'll get to go one day. Maybe we'll get to
Yeah, I
do,
want to go back next year, actually.
there'll be a super fight we could go
I'm going
to.
to try to go.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right, man. Well, it's great talking to you.
it was
Anytime you want to do it.
absolutely, yeah. Maybe we could do something. We'll see what's going on. Maybe we can talk before the fights on
Mhm.
the 18th.
For sure.
That would be fun. And if I have anything exciting coming up or any news, you will be the first person I share it with. I love talking to you. You have so
Yeah,
much. You're just such
I appreciate
a calm, nice energy.
it. I
I
try
really,
to.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Take care.
Take care. Have a good night. Bye, guys.
You
Thank you.
too.